All right, folks. We're ready for this? Calm down now. Calm down. All right. We're good. This is super loud, but this is Dennis. He is maintaining everything for the online viewers. So thank you so much. For those online, we're sorry you can't be here with us tonight, but you are honorary Dallasinian for the evening. So thanks for Dallasonian? Dallasite. There we go. I like that one. Oops. You know what? All right. Yeah, so just quick show of hands. How many people here are here for the first time tonight? Whoa. Cool. Thank you so much for coming out. Hopefully you left your ticket money at the door. No, we don't charge for anything that we do. For those that don't know and I guess maybe show of hands, whose first time is meeting me for the first time tonight or finding out about me for the first time? I love that. That's really awesome. Cool. So let me give you the breakdown real fast. Number one, this is Dallas Software Developers. We are a volunteer-ran group. We've been doing meetups now in Dallas for several years. We're pretty active in the community. We are not a technology focused group like other groups. We are all technologies. We think of ourselves more as a community for developers instead of a community for that one specific technology. So for example, 2 weeks ago, we do 2 meetups a month for those that aren't familiar. 2 weeks ago, we did a meetup that was called A Night of JavaScript, where we had 6 speakers giving talks on JavaScript. Tonight, we are doing A Night of AI. A Night of is our take on a mini tech conference. And essentially the idea is, my biggest hope tonight is you see something, hear something, experience something, witness something that gets you so excited that you go into your Google search bar at home and you search something up. That is what I would consider a win for the night. So please take notes, ask questions if you have to, whatever it is that you need to do, or write things down to research after the fact. I think that would be fantastic for everybody involved. You are in a community and in a room with people that appreciate the fact that you are here and hope that you have a conversation with them. So after the meetup is over, we tend to network again the kind of way that we did in the beginning. Some of y'all are sitting at tables right now with people that you know, that you're familiar with, which is fantastic. I love when people kind of meet people that they already know. One thing that would take that from fantastic to exceptional is if after the fact, you get out of your comfort zone a little bit and have conversations with people that you don't know. And I almost challenge y'all to have that interaction after the fact. I think you're in a room right now with people that are enthusiastic about AI the same way that you are. So please indulge yourself, make some friends, meet some new people, have a great opportunity. That's kind of what we do here. We never, ever charge for anything that we do. We try to keep it free and accessible for everyone, the same way that we've invested so much in this equipment to kind of stream things online to make sure it's a great experience for everyone involved. We make sure that anything that we do technology focused is accessible for all. Tonight is a very interesting night. So we have 4 speakers, and I will introduce the topics and the speakers in a moment. But before that, we have to do a couple house cleaning items. Number one, we have to make a huge shout out to the sponsors for tonight. Without them, this definitely would not be happening at the scale that it's happening tonight. So one big shout out to Yum Brands. We're in their building. They give us the space. So please, round of applause for Yum Brands. Yes. For those that don't know, we even did a tech conference here called the Commit Your Code Conference for Charity. And the idea was we had 64 speakers, 3 tracks, and 100% of all ticket sales were donated to charity. Yum Brands helped make that possible since we used their venue for that. We're doing it again. Commit Your Code is coming back in September. And this year, it's looking like we're going to have close to 100 speakers. We had 5,500 people attend online virtually, and we had almost 400 in the building, and we did it all in 2.5 months. This time around, we already see that the response is significantly higher with people already buying plane tickets to attend this one, and we haven't put tickets on sale yet. So tickets will be going on sale within the next few weeks. I'll try to keep that on your radar if that's something that you want to do. If you're interested in speaking, the CFP, which is called the Call for Papers, if you go to commityourcode.com, it is still open right now as we speak. There will be a committee that goes over all of the talks that have been submitted and speakers will be selected that way. As of right now, I think like 30 have been selected before we opened up the call for papers, to kind of make sure that we had some really rock star talent. So we're having 4 tracks for that: Java, JavaScript, Cloud, and the 4th track that we're introducing this year is .NET, which tends to be for the most in-demand technologies within the DFW area. It'll be really good like that. And for us, we are big on accessibility, kind of what I said before, and our tickets start at $30, and your meals are covered for both days. The idea wasn't to have income being a barrier to someone having access to educational resources or value. And we also know that a lot of companies have kind of slashed their education budgets. And so because of that, we know it's harder for developers that work in organizations to kind of attend these events. And so I speak at conferences and events all over the world. And so we wanted to do something where the community could really benefit as a whole. So whether you're a junior developer that is just trying to break into tech, or whether you're a seasoned professional, you're going to find some value within these rooms. We had people like senior vice presidents of financial organizations giving talks to experienced senior developers and dev advocates of organizations. So a lot of value in the room. Keep that on your radar. Second sponsor, huge shout out tonight, is This.Labs. Ironically, I work at this company. I'm the director of technology at This.Labs, and This is a tech consultancy. They work with clients like Google, Microsoft, Wikipedia, Stripe, et cetera. Really just delivering great solutions. AI is a big focus of a lot of the work that we're doing these days, which is why I'm kind of geeked out to kind of talk about it at a slightly more advanced level than maybe a general AI topic. And to be honest, a lot of the talks today will be kind of in that realm. We definitely have some beginner-friendly talks. So don't get me wrong, if you're a beginner or you're new to AI, you're still going to be able to follow a lot of this. We've kind of kept that in our consideration as far as developing the talks for this event, because we knew it's just going to be a wide spectrum of interest for this one. And so the third sponsor for tonight, Appwrite. Big shout out. And if we can, round of applause for this and Appwrite, please. And I say that specifically because that pizza order today was almost $1,000. And so it'll be here shortly. And there's no way we would have been able to handle this if we didn't have them supporting us tonight. So huge kudos to them. Appwrite is a backend as a service platform. So if you are a front-end developer, it could literally create your entire backend for you. It handles auth, databases, has tons of custom template functions that you could utilize. Highly recommend checking out. Their free tier is extremely generous. And their Discord is probably one of the most active ones that I've ever seen for a tool in my life. So huge shout out to them. Highly recommend checking them out, appwrite.io. And to be honest, of all the tools that I've seen, probably the most stylish docs that I've ever seen. And so I will put that out there. Now, with that being said, the pizza, it's not our fault. It's usually here at 6:30. They had some kind of snafu. So it should be here momentarily, according to them, when we just checked for the second time. And so it should be here soon, or any minute, really, hopefully. So whenever the pizza comes, please run to it, help yourselves and all that good stuff. Outside of that, is there anything that I'm missing? Cohorts. For those that don't know, one thing that we do at DSD, and that's like shorthand for Dallas Software Developers, which I'm sure everybody in the room probably figured out and didn't have to explain. But one thing that we do at DSD is we have a cohort program. We do not monetize it. It is 100% for free. And as of right now, we kicked off the cohort on Monday. It is the largest cohort that we have ever done in the history of the group. We have roughly 150 developers participating in this one. And the idea is we have junior developers kind of pairing together on a project, building something of substance that's actually worth talking about. And they are being guided by professional software developers in the industry. And so a lot of the cohort members, quite a few of them, are in the room tonight. One of the cohort leads, Jerry, he's actually speaking tonight as well. But it is all volunteer driven, and just so grateful for people like Jerry that are donating time for 6 weeks to kind of help out the next generation of developer and kind of skill them up. So if you are interested in the cohort, we are not accepting applications now, but it should be something on your radar. You can always sign up to be notified for the next one at dallassoftwaredevelopers.org if that is something that you're interested in. It is a remote cohort, meaning you don't ever have to go to a cohort meeting in person, but we do, if for those online, we do prioritize people in the Dallas area before we accept any external applications. So you can still apply. And I think 30% of this cohort is international, or outside of the Dallas area. And so don't feel disheartened by that potential of you not getting an opportunity. Quite a few in there are, but Dallas will always come first in this regard since we are a local meetup group. As of yet, I know I've covered quite a bit. Anybody have any questions about anything I said? Didn't think so. I'm pretty good at explaining it, I think. All right. Our next meetup is going to be a night of cloud. It's March 13th, so kind of put that on your radar. We do 2 meetups every single month, unless there's like a holiday or just something we can't avoid. But generally speaking, it's 2 a month. And a night of cloud, we're going to have, I believe, 5 speakers as of right now. And so that should be a really good one, really active, a lot of value in that one. Highly recommend checking that out. Whether you have a ton of experience with cloud or not, there's usually something there for everybody. And me, I'm not even like a big cloud person, and I always walk away with something. So I originally only knew how to use an S3 bucket, and it's kind of gone past that. So I'm pretty appreciative of that. And then I generally like to do something like this. Why did the AI refuse to write poetry? Because it wasn't artificially sentimental. I know you felt that. Okay, so I will be introducing our 4 speakers and then kind of the topics that we're going over. We have Ron Dagdag. He is the engineering manager at 7-Eleven. He just waved his hand there for everybody. Ron is going to be doing a web AI talk. It's a really interesting demo that he just kind of showed me. From there, we're going to be moving on to Jacob. Jacob is doing a talk. Yes, it's called Rags to Riches. And essentially, it's kind of showing you how to utilize your data in a more meaningful way. And then Jerry is going to be taking it to the other side of things. It's validating that data, but on top of that, it's going over agentic AI. And I will be going full-on agentic AI, showcasing, number one, how you could start building some agents if that's what you really wanted to do. But on top of that, in a way that if you're a beginner or new to AI, you could probably start doing it today and seeing some results with that. I've got quite a bit of production level information that I could share from different organizations and founders that I've met throughout the last year on some of the tooling and use cases that they're using, and with the bigger goal of really getting you excited about what's possible here, because some of the numbers and some of the conversations are just mind-blowing, and I think that is going to be a very interesting take on the subject. But I'm also going to show you like what the code looks like and things like that, so that way it's worth your time for sure. So highly recommend sticking around for that. And the last thing that we do before we end any meetup, I want to kind of get you mentally prepared for this one. We take a group photo. Nerve-wracking, I know. No, but we do always end every single meetup with a big group photo. It's kind of our tradition that we've been doing here. It's a great way to kind of just bring the community together for a quick photo. I will never force anyone to take a group photo that doesn't want to, but so far we've almost always had some people show up for it. And so we're probably all pile up here at the front, take a quick picture, and then we'll be networking after that. The pizza has just made it in, so if y'all want to start grabbing it while we get the first speaker up, I think this is the perfect opportunity to kind of knock that out real fast. And you don't have to worry about it. The first speaker can kind of get set up and all that good stuff, and we'll go from there. All right, y'all, thanks for coming out, and we're going to get this thing started.
All right. Good afternoon, or I guess it's good evening, everyone. My name is Ron Dagdag. Today I'll be talking about web AI, which is a browser-powered intelligence. Like I said, my name is Ron Dagdag. I am a Microsoft MVP. I've been a Microsoft MVP for 9 years now, and I don't work for Microsoft. I love the community, and I get this award because I'm helping the community and to share knowledge about all things Microsoft stuff. I'm R&D engineering manager at 7-Eleven. I'm part of the R&D group there called 7 Next. And let's get started. So today, has anyone heard of web AI, or is this something new concept that a lot of people may have known? But today I'm going to talk about this. The agenda for today is we're going to talk about a little bit of server-side AI and client-side AI, what's the difference there, and then running AI models in the browser, and then focus on the small language model, and then talk about built-in AI in the browser, and then doing some demo. I bet a lot of you have heard of this term generational marketing, and I wanted to get an audience participation on this in terms of who among here are part of silent generation? You can raise your hand. How about baby boomers out there? Any baby boomers? Raise your hand. Yeah. Gen X. Okay, I'm going to raise my hand. So we have some Gen X. Thank you for attending. Millennials. Go ahead. A lot of millennials in the team. Gen Z. All right. So we have some Gen Z over here. Of course, there is Gen Alpha. Anyone from born 2013 and 2025? So we have some representatives. So we have some Gen Alpha. Okay. So we have all these different generations. Of course, you know, we all have different ways in how uh, we how we grew up with technology, right? So a lot of, like, for example, Gen Alpha is touchscreens first generation growing up, right? Gen Z is digital natives. Millennials are tech savvy, and all these going through. I want to talk about this because this one, when I first started working with consumer tech, or you know, with software, a lot of it is more, you know, communications, right? There's different words of communication, different work of working. There's OS and all that, and there's emails, there's Office, Windows, and all these. What I'm trying to get at here is that different generations have different ways on how we communicate with each other, and how we can talk, and how we can communicate with each other. How do we use work software and all that too? So in terms of development, we all are developers here or have developer background. Developer have different generations too. And I wanted to talk a little bit more about this, because I find it interesting that there's people that are, you know, that have worked with mainframe, the mainframe generation, where, you know, COBOL, Fortran. Anyone working with COBOL or Fortran here? So we have some people. That's great. So they're in the mainframe generation, and then there's also the client server generation. Anyone working with C++, C, or Java, where your application and database. So we have some people that are. This is really a diverse group, because this is Dallas software. Then there's web generation. Anyone grew up with web generation, right? So we have some people that are doing web generation. Mobile generation. Any mobile app developers over here? Woohoo! Yeah. And then there's the cloud generation, right? So there's cloud. And then there's the AI generation that's coming up. And then there's the agentic generation. That's one of the reasons why we're here, to learn more about this agentic stuff. But the interesting part and how it goes through, like you're seeing around us, it's just even though we have all these different generations as throughout, some of these technologies we still support. Some of these technology we still use, right? Some of these technologies, maybe where you get started with development. I got started with mainframes. And then as we go along, we have all these different technologies, client server and all that. And so in terms of the AI, there's ways where you can look at it in the server side part or the client side part. A lot of people have used, most likely, ChatGPT. Anyone have used ChatGPT before? Right? Most likely a lot of us have tried it. Those are typically a server side, because where you host the model or these AI in the cloud, where you can support complex models, you can have broader compatibility on it. There's a scalable performance, and it leverages the AI cloud ecosystem. And then there's the client side, which is I'm going to be focusing on today, which is the client-side AI, where you can run the model. It's either in the browser, or you download the model locally on your machine, and then be able to execute it as in the browser. So that's part where you can help. It can help you protect the data, improve latency, and built-in purpose for quick responses. And because all these is possible, the client-side AI is possible because of what we call small language model. Small language model is a subset of language model, which is a variant of really large language model, like you know, DeepSeek, or you know, the 5.4 models, or you know, when you talk about the open AI models that's out there, they leverage the same principles and techniques. And they're compact, they're efficient, and they're efficient in memory usage and computational requirements. So one of the good things about running a small language model it's cost effective because it can run locally. The deployment flexibility, it's easier to customize if you need to fine tune it. And then there's, of course, low latency because it's running. All right. So what are the good use case for a small language model? One is text generation, summarizing or translation. You can also use it for translating from one language to other, or sometimes text completion is good enough that you can do to complete, to predict, based from the sentences and prompts. Of course, you can use it for chatbots, content creation, accessibility, and all that. One of the considerations, if you're going to deploy a small language model, is to think about it as the size of it, the size of Phi-3 is smaller as compared to ChatGPT or the GPT-4 models. The size. Another one is comprehension. You can use it to make it highly specialized and contextual understanding. Of course, computing depends on the machine itself, where you're going to run it. And of course, there might be bias, and also inferencing speed is also important to look at whenever you're running this. So I talk about Phi. Phi is another small language model that can be run locally on your machine. It can be, there's Phi 3.5. There's actually Phi 4 now that is available out there. That was built by Microsoft. And Phi 3.5 is the small language model that can also do vision, and then also the mixture of experts. So I'm going to talk a little bit about this. So let me see if I can show you a demo that looks like. So this is some samples that I have. And I'm going to talk about this Transformer.js. So this one is I can load the model. And what this one is doing is it actually downloaded 1.3 gigabytes of the Phi-3 model. And then I can say hello. And now I have a chatbot. And this one is actually running locally on this machine. Yes, it would download a large model and run it locally, but it caches it. So if I reload the screen, and load it again, it just pick it up from cache, and then it will be able to use it now. And then it's capable enough. Of course, I have an M4, which is a little bit faster machine, but it really depends on the machine where you're running it with. So we can also see that it's not connecting to the network. So if you go to developer tools, and then in terms of network itself, let's see if we can run it again. Or I could say more. So notice how it's not even sending anything on the network. It knows it's actually running it locally on my machine. Isn't that cool? So if the company is kind of stopping you from connecting to ChatGPT, you can actually host this model, even run this model, these small language model locally on your machine, and you can do this. So that's a good demo right there. In terms of code itself, very simple in terms of the number of lines. These are all JavaScript stuff. We don't have to show in Python. You can actually do this because if you're a web developer and you know how to create, then develop JavaScript, it's just a few lines of code, you'll be able to do it and host it yourself. It actually using Transformer.js, which simplifies a lot of the connection in order to download the web. And then of course, as it processes you have your text generation pipeline, and then you pass it to the model, and it would receive back the results. Simple as that. Okay, there's also Gemini Nano. Has anyone heard of Gemini series and all that? So Gemini Nano has two. This is also Google's small language model flavor. The other one, 3.5, is Microsoft small language model. They do have Nano 1 and then Nano 2. Nano 2 is the latest one that they have. that can run AI agents. You can use memory, reasoning, and planning to complete tasks for you. Nano 2 can run offline. So that points me into built-in AI. Built-in AI is an AI model that runs directly into the web browser. It runs locally on the device, and then without dependency on the server, and then it enhances privacy. And why would you want to do this? A lot of it is because easier deployment. If Gemini Nano or this small language model is already part of Chrome, or it's already downloaded locally, then there's no huge download or gigabytes of download because it's already part of the install. Of course, hardware acceleration. It's using web GPU in order to run this locally on the machine, and CPU and all that. It's all local processing, nothing. And now you can also use it for offline use. The advantage of this really is privacy and security. A lot of companies these days are afraid that they may have data leaks, so sensitive data really stays on the machine. Also, user experience is better because it's closer to the processing is closer. It's near instant result without server round trips. Cost and scalability, because once it downloads and once it does the offload processing, it runs it on the user device, no tokens, and going through the API keys and all that. And then the advanced feature, it makes it cheaper to run it. Chrome has available APIs now that you can, as a software engineer or as a JavaScript or web developer, can use. There's Prompt API, there's Summarizer API, Writer/Rewriter API, Translator, and Language Detector API. Prompt API is kind of like the ChatGPT, where you can actually have the model chat, right? But for the everyday stuff, maybe you can use it to summarize, and which is I'm going to demo today. There's also the language detector. What language are you using? Those kind of things. So a lot of these small tools that you can integrate into your web application today, you can do that. Of course, they're currently in web, original trial, and some of them are EPP, which is the private preview or preview first. So it is really early bits. So in order to do this, you need to download a certain version of Chrome in order to do this, which is, but it does support Windows, Mac, Linux. In terms of storage, you need certain size of storage, and also the model itself requires gigabytes of storage, then GPU, and then of course networking is important. So these are some of the steps in order to get it running, but you need to install Chrome Canary in order to do this. And there's Chrome flags that you need to set up, which in this case, you can use Prompt API or Summarization API. You can enable that in Chrome, and then we start the browser, and then it would start downloading the model in the background until it's ready. You have to wait, and then wait again. It takes a while, but because it's about 20 gigabytes of stuff that it's going to download. I don't know at installation time, so it takes a little while. But eventually, you'll get there, and then you'll have, right? So there's ways you can verify it, or verification steps, if it's actually running on the machine, on your machine. So under Chrome components, you'll be able to see. Let me see if I can showcase that one. So I have these. So if you do Chrome flags, right? You have to enable some of the flags, but also components. So under components here, you can see this. See this optimization guide on device model, then it would download this latest version, and you can do check update, and it'll do that. So once that gets downloaded, and then you'll be able to have it locally on your machine. Of course, this is only desktop only. Android, iOS, Chrome OS is not supported yet. The good thing about this, because it's part of Chrome, is you can actually have AI in your Chrome extensions. So that might help you in terms of enhancing the browsing capabilities, getting a different UX experience, and then seamless integration with it. So let me showcase this one. So what I did here, I have a project that I created that is actually, I used AI to build this AI tool, this Chromium extension. Is anyone familiar with GitHub Copilot? Yes? The latest GitHub Copilot now, if you download Code Insiders, and if you have the subscription there's agentic mode for Copilot now, for GitHub Copilot, that allows you to actually change the model that you wanted to use, but you can actually use this to modify. So I can say, add comments to this code, and it would just analyze the code and it'll start doing the comments for me. And also, if it needs to run a command line, it would prompt you for the command line and does all these things. So this is the project that I kind of work at, but let me demo that real quick while we're waiting on this. Okay, see if it's, anyway, this is just a side comment that I'm excited about. Like Copilot has an agentic mode, just like, if you're using Cursor or Windsurf, they have a way to do this. See, it'll run it. Maybe the network might be a little bit slow, but it'll start modifying the code base, and you can actually see how it does the edit. So it analyzes the code, add the comments and all that stuff for you. And okay, so this is the code I wanted to showcase. So I have this Chromium extension that I created. It's called Explain in Generations. Okay, and what this Explain in Generation does is, so I compile it. You can actually select which generation of speaker or how do you want things to be explained to you, right? And it looks like we have a lot of millennials here, or we have a lot of Gen Z. Which one do you want to try out of all these? Gen Z. Okay, we'll have a lot of Gen Zs here, so we'll do Gen Z. Okay, so I have this, so I can highlight this certain text, and I can right click and then explain in generations. And what it will do, it would summarize the text that I selected into Gen Z mode or Gen Z talk. Okay, so let's see how it goes. So like back in the day, these skilled crafts people, we worked so hard to learn this stuff, and machines are taking it away. Basically, we're like, no cap. Robots are gonna ruin everything. They started smashing machines and calling themselves Luddites. After this, after the dude named Ned Ludd, it was all about preserving jobs and the way, industrial revolution, and kind of like how people talk to AI and all that kind of stuff. Interesting stuff. Of course, if you can change it to Generation Alpha, and you can do the same thing too. Let's see how the kids these days talk. So of course, a lot of emojis. Notice that the emojis, but there's different take on the same document on how you see where I'm gonna. A lot of these is actually running it in a Chrome extension locally, and I can bring the context, meaning the data that I want to bring to the machine learning, run it locally without sending it out. So just to show you what that code looks like, or a little summary of that code, because I know I don't have a lot of time. So in terms of like, how did I describe what is a Gen Z, what's Gen Alpha, and all that stuff? The interesting part is I also had AI create this document for me to to where which one's a millennial? How do you define millennial? How do you define Gen X and all these? And how, what's the typical way of talking? And also in terms of capabilities and all that, these are all JavaScript stuff that I bet a lot of people here will be able to experiment and try out. There's a summarize. This one is using the summarizer API in order to run the code and then be able to just send the message, receive the message, and then do that. Cool. All right. Do we still have enough time? Okay. All right. If you have any questions, feel free. This is on the GitHub lab or the GitHub page if you want to connect to that. And then if you connect with me, this is my LinkedIn. And thank you very much, everyone. Appreciate it.
So 2 things. Number 1, if you haven't observed it already, drinks that weren't here in the beginning are there. Please help yourself. There's also still a lot more pizza. Our goal is to have you look like me before you leave. So please help yourself up to some more. You laughed a little too hard there. No, but seriously, please help yourselves. And one thing that I was saying earlier that I forgot to mention in the beginning, Jacob, Jerry, and myself, we are writing a book on AI. And there's a lot of value in there. As of right now, it's well over 100 pages. One thing that we're doing that's going to be really cool that we'll explain at the end, there'll be a sign-up sheet where you'll receive a portion of the book completely for free. But for those that contribute, whether it's suggestions or feedback, we're adding your names into the pages as well. And so there'll be a contributor section for that. We want to highlight anyone that kind of adds value to that. So if that's something you're interested in, check out that sign up newsletter at the end of this. And so without further ado, we're going to give it up to Jacob.
All right. Glad to see so many people out here in this frigid weather interested in learning about AI. So I know it's a pretty exciting topic, but today I'm going to be talking to you about RAG, which RAG stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. And it's really just a way to combine your data with one of these pre-trained large language models. So you're not actually having to train the model, but you can have it do amazing things with your data and, really build some pretty exciting products with it just by combining your data with it. And there's safe and secure ways to do that. So my name is Jacob Orshalick, and if you ask my friends, they tell you my hobby is crashing bikes. And that's not actually true. I ride mountain bikes and road bikes, and about every 6 months, I tend to get in an accident on my mountain bike, so I show up to something with a sling on or a brace or something like that, so that's why I get that reputation. I'm also a 2-times Ironman, and for anybody that's thinking about doing it, I just say if you have the grit and determination, anyone can do it. It's an awesome thing to do. It felt great to finish it. I'm also a coffee addict. I was actually at a coffee shop before this, and I work at coffee shops on a day-to-day basis. It's just kind of my thing. I am in a 12-step program, so yeah, I'm just kidding. I'm not really, but I am trying to move over to decaf a little more so I sleep better at night. But I am a software consultant, and I know that's what you guys are interested in. And if you're interested in connecting with me and finding out a little bit more about my career, shoot me a message on LinkedIn. I'd love to hear from you. All right, actual footage. Okay, so if you listen to these companies that are talking about AI and that are releasing these AI products, they'll tell you that AGI is just around the corner. Well, Sam Altman and OpenAI have been telling us that for a couple of years now, it feels like, but it's just not the case. Large language models, they have their place, right? They have certain problems that they can solve. They are getting better all the time, but they're not the solution for everything. And all of us have seen behind the curtain a little bit, whether we've used Cursor, ChatGPT, any one of these products to try to generate something. We know that the code it generates maybe is slightly off, have a few bugs in it, or if we're generating some text, it may hallucinate on us and actually tell us something that's actually not true. So we know that these language models that they're building are not perfect, right? At least not yet. And so what we have to understand as developers is where do these things fit? And they're not the solution to everything, but they are a solution to some things, all right? And as developers, our job is to take the tools that we have in our toolbox and put them together and piece them together to build something incredible to solve problems for businesses, right? Our goal is to either make money or save money for businesses by building technical solutions. So there's two types of AI engineers. There's the AI architects. These are the guys that work for OpenAI, the data scientists, right? They work for OpenAI, Anthropic, all these companies, and they build these AI models. They love things like statistics and vector math and things that I'm not really that interested in, and most developers aren't. And then there's these AI chefs, and that's what I consider myself, all right? These are the people that we use these pre-trained models that are being built by these companies in order to piece them together with APIs and with data and build something really incredible and really cool just by coding and piecing things together, right? I mean, we know that's exactly what we do on a day-to-day basis. We take a bunch of tools and libraries and piece them together to solve problems. And we can do the same thing with these AI models. We just have to know where they fit. So I like to tell stories because I think it's a great way to learn, how things work and really remember concepts and topics. So I'm going to talk to you about a project that I did with a large private equity firm. And they had a small internal tech support team that was pretty overwhelmed. They were dealing with all the problems that come up, on a day-to-day basis with access and security restrictions and problems with their laptop within the organization. And they were just simply overwhelmed because they were too small to handle all the problems that were coming in. And if anybody has ever worked within a financial organization, you know that time is money, right? These aren't patient people. So loss of firm productivity is a major problem. And really the cause is there were just too many support tickets for a limited staff. So the question was, what can we do? Well, there certainly wasn't budget to hire more tech support representatives. And they noticed that the tech support knowledge was spread among multiple sources. So if a problem came in and somebody was contacting us with whether it was a support ticket or making a phone call or sending in an email, they may have to go look at wiki documentation, resolve support tickets, or even talk to another support representative to figure out how to solve that problem, right? To get the steps necessary to solve it. So what could they do? Well, maybe they could work faster. They could create this knowledge base, which basically is step-by-step solutions to figure out how to solve every problem. So that if somebody called in and they said, hey, I've got a problem, well, they can refer to this knowledge base and figure out how to solve it, right? Easy, much faster. They don't have to go to all those resources. So it looks something like this, right? They have a support representative who gets the call. They search for the solution, whether it's, initially the knowledge base articles. If they don't find it, they fall back to the old solutions. And then if, they had to fall back, then they go and create a new knowledge base article, right? So we're building up this knowledge base over time and making it better and better. And the hope is that eventually it will have the solution to all the problems. Well, it turns out that the knowledge base articles, while they were helpful, well, now we had to spend a bunch of time documenting, right? And, as developers, we love to document, right? I mean, everybody knows documentation is not what we want to be doing on our day-to-day basis. And then as the number of articles increased, it became difficult to find what they were looking for with just a simple keyword search, right? They were getting too many articles coming up, and they had to go and dig through these to try to figure out which one was the right solution to that specific problem. And it really didn't address the real problem, which was too many support requests for a limited staff. But there were some interesting observations here. About 35% of the support tickets were simple step-by-step solutions that a user could handle on their own, all right? If they just simply had a guide to sit there and take them through it. They really didn't need to be on the phone with someone. They just needed to be stepped through this, okay? And if the users could handle just half of these on their own, it would reduce wait times by 50%. That's pretty incredible, right? I mean, that sounds like a business case. And anytime we're solving a problem with a technical solution, we need a business case. That's how we sell it to the business, right? That's the reason why they pay us to build software solutions. So we can't just stick any large language model in there and call it a support chatbot, okay? But that was the idea, is that we want to put some kind of support chatbot in place that could take advantage of these knowledge base articles. But if we stuck any old LLM in there, it would be happy to answer their questions. You can ask ChatGPT anything you want. But the problem is it's going to use its training data to answer those questions. And within our organization, we have very specific ways of solving problems, right? So every organization has their own security, framework around it, security systems. They have different ways of maybe logging into a system through SSO or whatever it is. So all of those specific solutions, the LLM's not going to know anything about that, right? We have to teach it. We can do that through something called AI grounding, okay? We don't want it just making up solutions to the questions that people ask. We want it to know what the real solutions are. And really, AI grounding is combining one of these large language models with a data source, all right? Just like our knowledge base. So that looks something like this, all right? So instead of just sticking the LLM in there on its own, we now have the end users asking questions to our AI support agent, which is being fed information from this knowledge base that we already have, right? We've got all these great articles that people have spent a whole bunch of time writing that step them through the solutions, okay? So if we can just feed that to the AI support agent, when they ask a question and we know, hey, yeah, we've got that information in our knowledge base, boom, we can give them a great response, right? LLMs are great at that. They're great at summarizing material and giving a really solid response as long as it has the information it needs. That's a RAG solution, okay? Just like I talked about at the beginning, retrieval augmented generation. It's combining your data with a large language model. And you've probably seen this with ChatGPT, okay? Now, if you ask ChatGPT a question like, who are the Beatles? It really doesn't have to do much. It's been trained on so much information on the internet that it's probably encountered Wikipedia articles or some article source that has enough information about the Beatles that it can just, boom, generate a response and respond to you, okay? ChatGPT just calls back to an API, which then calls the large language model behind the scenes, and it just automatically generates a response. It doesn't have to do anything else. It already knows that information. But what if you ask it something it hasn't been trained on, okay? So for instance, the OpenAI model GPT-4o is only trained on internet data through July 2023, okay? That gives it a cutoff date. It doesn't have any information past that. So if you ask it something beyond that date, it's not gonna know what you're talking about. So what does it do? Because it'll give you a good response, right? Well, it does this. So I am a bourbon collector, and I always want to know when a new release comes out if it's actually worth buying. So if I asked it a question about a 2024 release of George T. Stagg, it actually has to go and execute a web search first to get the information it needs to know and all the articles related to reviews on that bourbon. And then based on that web search and that information, then it can call the LLM with a prompt and include that information into the prompt with my question so that it can generate an appropriate response, right? It's grounding the response from the LLM on the web search results that it got, okay? This is called a call chain, all right? And if anybody has ever played with LangChain before, this is exactly how it functions. It basically allows you to build up these kind of call chains where you're combining API calls or database calls or something along with the calls that you're doing off to a large language model. Now, we can do the same thing. So for our AI support agent, in this case, if you were to ask it, can you help me log into Workday? What we want to be able to do is go off and get these two articles, how to log into Workday and resetting your Workday password, as the context to ground the LLM and be able to respond to our question. Can you help me log into Workday? So that looks something like this, okay? Very similar to how ChatGPT works here. So if you call the AI support agent and ask it a question, it's first going to go off and use that question to retrieve one of our knowledge base articles from something called a vector store, okay? And I'm going to talk about vector stores and how they work here in just a minute. But sending that question to a vector store, it knows and understands that question and is able to give back the related articles based on what they're asking, because the vector store has been loaded with all of those knowledge base articles from our database. Then we once again call back to our model, GPT-4o, with the articles and the question as our prompt, and it generates a good completion. Now, notice that it says completion plus citations when it's responding to the AI support agent. The citations are really just links back to the articles, all right? It's a way for the person to verify that what the LLM responded with is actually valid, right? Or if they want to go see more information, they can click on the link and go read the entire article instead of just the summarization that the large language model created. And as you can see, over time, as our support representatives continue to add articles to our knowledge base, the AI support agent just gets smarter. It's able to solve more problems and save more time, right? Fewer people, their calls are getting over to the AI support representative. So the core tech stack used to build this solution was some things that you're probably familiar with if you're a JavaScript developer: React, Express, and Node.js. And then we also built it on the Azure Cloud platform, right? And the Azure Cloud has great integration with OpenAI, all right? They have Azure OpenAI, which means that they run OpenAI models directly on the Azure Cloud. This means that no data is shared with OpenAI, right? And that's a big concern for companies, right? They want confidentiality of all their data. So if you're taking some confidential data within the organization, whether it's from a database or articles or whatever it is, you don't want that being fed over for training to a company like OpenAI. You want to make sure that your data is private and secure. And the Azure OpenAI space allows for that, okay? And then we also used Azure AI Search for this vector database that I just talked about. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. But all of this was tied together with a technology called LangChain. There's two versions of LangChain, a Python version and a JavaScript version. In this case, we use the JavaScript version. All right, so for building a solution like this, there's a few considerations that you have to think about when you're using large language models. First of all, they're stateless. All right, so every request you make to an LLM is completely stateless. It doesn't remember anything that you've sent to it before. So if I send it a couple of articles with a prompt, it's not going to know about those articles next time. I have to go and fetch the appropriate articles for every question that a user asks, okay? I always have to send it that context to ground it for the response. We also have to concern ourselves with context windows. Context windows are really just the limits on the size of the request that you're sending in to a large language model. So it's not going to let you send the world, right? You can only send a certain number of tokens. And we'll talk about how tokens divide up in a minute so that you can understand how big these language model context windows are. And then we also have to consider runaway costs. So most of the time when you're using generative AI services, they charge based on the tokens that you send and then the tokens that you get back in a response. So it's kind of like counting words. It's doing a word count to say, okay, how many words were there in the input and the response, and then it multiplies those times a fraction of a cent or sometimes a penny or whatever to determine how much that request costs, okay? And then finally, performance and accuracy. So if you just send the world in a request too much information, it's going to confuse the large language model. We really only want to send the information it needs as context to answer a question. So we have to go and get just the articles that we want in order to answer the person's question. We have to pinpoint those. All right, so today we're going to talk through embeddings, vector stores, and tokens. We're going to leave chunking, conversation history, and response streaming for later because we just don't have time today. But this will at least give you the basics you need to know in order to build a RAG solution. So first of all, we got to start with embeddings. And embeddings really are how language models understand text. So if I was to create an embedding from the phrase, can you help me log into Workday, which is something somebody might ask, right, if they're using our AI support agent, you can see that array underneath the text on the right that gets generated. And this is an embedding, okay? And an embedding is really just a point in a very highly multidimensional space, all right? And what I mean by that is that it's going to graph that next to other related text. So we're looking at a three-dimensional graph here, right? So if you're a if you are or are not a math person, don't worry about it too much. But in this graph, you can see how our articles are graphed in this space and are near one another, right? So whenever it creates one of these embeddings, this is how it understands what's related, how these articles are related to one another and how a question might be related to them. Is that how to log into Workday, resetting your Workday password, and accessing Workday outside the company network are all very close to one another on the graph based on that embedding that was generated, okay? So, and then if we ask the question, can you help me log into Workday, the embedding that would be generated for that would be pinpointed very close to all of those articles. And as we expand out the sphere there, it would find how to log into Workday and resetting your Workday password as related articles, Okay, that's how the embeddings work, and that's how a vector store, which we'll see in just a second, finds the information that it's looking for. Okay, and then you notice down at the bottom, requesting permissions for the financials platform. That's obviously completely unrelated to everything else, so it will be graphed much further away. That's how the embeddings work. So if we took this code, this JavaScript up here, and this is really using the OpenAI text embedding 3 small model, but if we generated an embedding from can you help me log into Workday, this is what you would get. Now notice how huge that array is, right? So you can see this is a very highly multi-dimensional space where it's graphing these things, but that's really the magic of these large language models, right? It's how it understands text and relates text. And it does that for text, images, and audio. So whenever you see these multimodal models that handle all 3 of those, that's how it understands how all of these things are related, is it creates those embeddings, and those embeddings capture the meaning based on how they're graphed and how close some text is to other text. So when we load a vector store, it works in the same way. And remember, our vector store is where we put our articles so that whenever somebody asks a question, we can go and find the related articles. But it works exactly like that, where you would create an embedding for every single article, and then you load that embedding into the vector store, and everything that was similar would be grouped next to one another within the vector store, okay? Just based on those embeddings that were generated. And this, we don't have time to go through all of this, but this is how LangChain makes it easy to load a vector database or a vector store, right? Depending on what you're using. But it's very simple. You just simply load, you can load everything from, your hard drive, or go off and call on a database to pull all that information in. It just depends on how you need to do it, but it provides plugins and integrations for all of that. And in this case, we're using OpenAI to do so. But this is what it looks like from a graphical standpoint. All right. So if I was to ask the question, can you help me log into Workday? Let's say somebody, is calling our AI support agent and trying to find that information. It would first generate the embedding in order to query the vector store. And then based on that embedding, it would find the articles that are near to that question after the embedding was generated, return those. And as you can see, we'd get back our how to log into Workday and resetting your Workday password. And then we generate a prompt that includes those articles plus the question and send that over to GPT-4o or whatever large language model you happen to be using. And that grounds it appropriately, right? It can now answer that question based on our knowledge base articles. So now let's talk about model tokenization. So depending on the model that you're using, it may break down and tokenize text a little bit differently, but it can use words, subwords, characters. It just really depends on the model itself. But if we were to break it up by words and you had the phrase, can you help me log into Workday, we'd have 7 tokens here, right? You see the array, right? It's just 7 words. Very simple. Well, that's not exactly how it really works. So here we're using Tick Token, which is a library that allows you to tokenize text for OpenAI. But in this case, you see the same phrase generates 9 tokens. And then if I actually print out the result of those tokens, you see we get an array with just a bunch of integers, all right? Well, the truth is these models really aren't looking at text at all. Actually, they're using IDs to represent every single token that's out there. And then they have a lookup table that allows you to go back and get the text. So whenever it's doing text generation, it's actually generating these IDs, and then it goes and actually looks up the text so that you get something that you understand, right? Because nobody's going to know what these IDs are. But the key is that the number of tokens actually differs, right? Every model does it a little bit differently and breaks up the words however it needs to. All right, so the last thing I'm going to talk about is the context windows. So remember, we talked about how you can break up tokens, and we also talked about how important it is to limit what you're sending in the context window and keep costs down, right? So if you take a look here, we've got a pretty large max request tokens for a lot of these models. The embedding model is a lot smaller, but with O1, if you were to max out the request 5 times, it would cost you $15 just for the input tokens, all right? So you want to keep that context window small. And the key is just retrieving the information you need. So whenever we talk about those articles, you only want to get the articles that are necessary for the particular question that's being asked. That's why the vector database is so important, so that you can just go and get that information. You can't go and grab every single article and throw it into the context. Even if the context window allows it, you don't want to do that, right? It's going to be really expensive. All right, so on your own, you can check out chunking, conversation history, and response streaming. But at the end of the session, we're going to give you free access to part of the book, and that part of the book will actually cover these topics. So sign up at the end, and you'll get that access. Now, Jerry's going to introduce you to fine-tuning and agents, and Danny's going to show you some real-world agentic solutions. And if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, there's the link to access that. All right, thank you all very much.
Hey everyone. So I'm gonna take over where Jacob left off, and this is part 2 of the developer's guide to AI, where I'm gonna just talk about fine-tuning and agentic AI. Again, very basic stuff just to get you guys interested, just to get you guys started. I really hope that you guys go back, take the takeaways from here, you start Googling and start building on your own. So my name is Jerry. Quick introduction. I work as a senior director at DataNimbus. My time at DataNimbus, I've built the products for the company, and these days I work closely with the customers to figure out how they are using our products. Big fan of Formula One and football, the real one. Okay, disclaimers, because my company is also in the space of AI and building models and ETL pipelines and other things. I need to have a mandatory disclaimer there. These views over here are mine and not my employers. Again, piggybacking on the slide that Jacob showed. So there are 2 kinds of AI developers out there, right? One are the architects, the chefs. This is more towards the chefs who are going to build it. Oh, and by the way, I have to, before I forget, that's AI imagine photo of me and my dog, by the way. So that's how the AI thinks I look. There you go. Okay. So let's start. So what are we going to cover? It's a continuation of where we left off. We're going to talk about fine-tuning, and we're going to talk about agentic. Now, before we get there, you need to first take a call on what is the right AI approach for you in terms of which model are you going to use. So you're at that point where, hey, how should I go forward with my AI journey, right? Or how do I start using these models? The first thing that you could do is, well, you could build your own model from the ground up, or you could use a pre-trained model that's available, Hugging Face, Ollama, or Unsloth, or one of those places. Or you could take it and fine-tune a model for your use case. So this is fundamentally answering the question, hey, I have a use case. What route do I take? Do I build it? Do I use a pre-trained model, or do I fine-tune a pre-trained model that's available out there? Now, there are pros and cons for each of those. If you're building a net new model, that's a lot to do. The good thing is that you get complete control. You can have complete control over everything. You can customize it the way you want it. You can build, deploy, take your own time with it. But the thing is that it needs a lot of data, and it needs a lot of expertise building it. What about pre-trained model? It's the easiest way you can get started. Most of the models that's available out there today are trained on massive amount of data. It's available for free. It's lightweight. You could pretty much get 3/4 of the way with a pre-trained model just to test out a hypothesis, but they do have limitations. They may not be the optimal one, and they might have inherent biases in it. So you will soon hit a wall where the pre-trained approach might not work for you, right? So that's where fine-tuning comes in, where you can take this pre-trained model and then train it on your data so that it acts better when it given the context of your questions and your use case, etc. And I see people wearing shades over there. Nice touch. Okay. So what do I prefer personally? Of the 3 approaches, I use the last 2, the pre-trained model and the fine-tuning approach. Honestly, throughout my career, I have built models from scratch twice. That too for my personal use. Once was to solve a Sudoku puzzle because I just wanted it to go figure out the grid, solve it, and go input it so I can get better timing on the board. The second time was we had a company event where they wanted me to find words in a letter grid. And I'm like, I'm not a fifth grader or a second grader. I'm not going to spend 5 minutes trying to figure out how to find a name from a letter grid. I spend the next 5 days trying to write a model that can solve it in 10 seconds. So that's how I built my 2 models ever. That's a lot of experience. I would still suggest you guys, if you have the time and the inclination to do it, go build these small little projects for you because there's a lot of learning in it. It will help you understand the nitty-gritties of what goes underneath it. But these days, I must confess, I use a lot of pre-trained models and I do fine-tuning of the models according to the use case that I have. I particularly like fine tuning specifically because you don't need a very big model or GBs of memory and disk space to run your model. Once you can take a small fine-tuned model, like a classification model or something of that sort, give it your data, your stuff, train it, and it's going to be really good because you're training essentially on your data, right? So that's why I like the idea of fine-tuning. Okay, so now that I have set the context, let me talk about fine tuning. So how do you want to fine tune? So this is where most people are really skeptical, saying that, okay, I have to sit in front of an editor, write a lot of code, etc., etc. Let me tell you, to fine tune, you really don't have to write code. Not always. If you just want to build something out really quick, there is a UI way to do it. If you head over to Hugging Space, there is the auto train feature, the UI. You can run it on locally on your machine or on the on Hugging Face Spaces. Or you could use this Google AI Studio where they let you train the Google models on your data. Okay, those are 2 AI approaches. But if you need an even more faster way, which I prefer, is the command line approach, where you could run the Hugging Face auto train on the command line, saying what is it that you want to do, which model you want to fine tune, give it your data, and you're set. Right? It's that easy. You don't even have to touch the code editor for anything else at that point. Right? That's how easy it is for you to get started today. Okay, it was not the case a year, 2 years back when everything just exploded. But these days, things are catching up so fast. It's so convenient for anyone to get started. But we still have to talk about the data, right? How do you prep your data for your fine tuning, right? How do you create your data sets? That's what it's officially called. The good news is you have 2 approaches. You can either provide it as a CSV format or a JSON-L format. What's a JSON-L? It's just single line JSON, line after line in a file. You could just take that and hand it over to your model. Essentially, here, the data that you see over here or over here, you can upload those files. You need to read the documentation a little bit, but it's easy. You just have to tell, okay, what is what in the files or the data that you're sending it, and it can just start training on the data that you send, that you share it. It's as simple as that. Okay, with me so far? I hope I have not exceeded your context window. Bad pun. Oof, did not land. Okay. People who are born after the 2000s, how many of you know the significance of this image? Raise your hands. Damn. Wow. I mean, you guys are the cool ones because you get this. Because trust me, as millennials, this was the movie. Trust me. I mean, if there is an agent out there, this is the agent, right? Okay. If you have not seen the Matrix trilogy, please go watch it. Amazing movie. Okay. So we're going to talk about agents and agentic AI. So what essentially is an agent? An agent is nothing but a system that has AI and it has tools that can accomplish its end goal. That's it. It's a system. It's a software system that has AI in it, and it has reach into the real world to do stuff. It can fundamentally think and act. So this is where you hear these terms, chain of thought, COT, where this model can, given a problem statement, it can figure out, hey, okay, this is how I'm going to approach the problem, and then act it with the tools. So it's capable of planning and reasoning, thinking, and it can operate to a level of degree of autonomy. That's where it can act on it, right? when you use ChatGPT to ask it a question and ask it for something, it's going to generate an answer for you, but it really can't do stuff to on your system, etc. This is where agentic AI comes into picture. We need to draw the difference between an agentic workflow and a traditional workflow. The traditional workflow pretty much follows the predefined script. It has that 10 steps that you are given it to. It's going to follow that 10 step every single time. But just like a human, how we approach things, the agentic AI is going to pick and choose what it has to do or what is the best approach to achieving its goal rather than using every step on its way. Okay, so how do you get started with agents? My journey with agentic AI started with Crew AI. It's a good tool for you to get started with. I'm afraid at this point you would need an editor where you can open up, edit some YAML files, give it some context and get it to use. Browser use is another tool that I use really good. If you should really see it in action, it can really interact with the browser. It does not see the HTML code on web pages. It actually sees the browser the way you see it, and it can pinpoint elements from the browser and start interacting with it. And then there's finally agent.ai from HubSpot, specifically geared towards marketing and other things. They have a bunch of agents that you can interact on the web and ask you to do stuff and generate marketing content and other things. That's all you can use. But for me, when even though I started with Crew AI and browser use, the real game changer was when Hugging Face announced small agents. That's where things started clicking for me. I'm going to take you guys through that journey soon. Before that, we need to understand what are tools. So the way an agent can interact with the world is via tools. The tools enable an AI agent to interact with the world. What does interaction mean? It can go query the internet. It can query a database. It can generate a file, run a program, call an API, do authentication. You think of it, and you can build a tool for it, right? Where can you find tools today? LangChain has a bunch of tools that they have built out. Crew AI has a bunch of tools built out. But let me tell you, when it comes to tools, you're only limited by your imagination, right? And I'm going to prove it to you. Before that, so how do you build your agentic network? The 3 tools that's out there, like I said, browser use, Crew AI, small agents. I'm leaning heavily towards small agents. I'll show it to you in a while. So I hope you guys can see the code over there. Yeah. So recently, when I was playing around with small agents, I just said, okay, I'm going to build a tool. So what did I ask the agent to do? I asked the agent, okay, go create a poem. I don't know why I didn't say write a poem. 3 stanzas. Each stanza has 4 lines about agentic AI, and write it into a file, and the file should be saved under a particular folder. This was the instruction given to the agent. And the agent, the only tool that I gave to the agent was a write file tool that I wrote, which is this. And if you look at it, it's nothing but these 3 lines at the end. It essentially is nothing but I wrapped the write file function of Python as a tool. You get it? It's the same thing that you have been doing for long, write file, read file, call APIs, but wrapped as a tool. Only part I have to do was I had to explain what this tool is, what input it takes, and what output it gives to the and define it as a tool, and you're set to go. And then it wrote this poem for me, right? So Danny spoke about an AI poem. There's your AI poem, okay? Yeah, and that's the actual poem it wrote. It's that easy. Now think about it. You have written automations for your day-to-day use. You have connected APIs. You can take all of that, wrap it as a tool, and give it to your AI, to your agent, and that agent can really, really, truly create powerful stuff for you, right? That's the magic moment. That's what I really hope you guys build. That's it. We are towards the end. There are a few things I want to cover, specifically on the agentic side, because it needs a good agent or a good model that can really reason how it has to build stuff out. So you need a good model working in the backend. I've played around with multiple models. I still go back to Gemini 2 Pro, something that I'm using, which is the same thing. Yeah, it's a Gemini Pro model that I use. That gives me the best result all around. I've played around with local models. The smaller the size, it's a miss most of the time. And finally, as developers, we have our own shortcuts and automations that we carry around when we switch jobs or move from place to place. I believe going forward, you guys would have to truly build out your agent network. You have to build an arsenal of your own private agents that can really, really transform your workplace for you, right? And that agent you're going to carry from your one employer to the next, one job to the next, one project to the next. That's going to be a game changer, and I truly think you guys should invest in it. Finally, where can you find me? I write my stuff on my website. That's where you'll find all my social media links and the articles that I write, including the 2 models that I built, how I built it, bunch of links that you can take care of. That's it. Thank you. Over to Danny.
Yeah, so lot to cover. This is my LinkedIn profile. I'm D Thompson Dev on all social media platforms. You can find me. I'm pretty easy to find in that regard. I'm the director of technology at This.Labs. So what does that mean? Number one, This.Labs, as I previously said, is a tech consultancy. But on the other side of it, we have a media arm. And so on the tech consultancy side, we've solved a ton of AI-related problems. It's a big focus of ours, especially right now, especially with some of the players that we're dealing with. But we've also had to deliver some solutions that are un-AI related. One prime example, and I was just on a live stream recently, actually just like 2 days ago, with GitHub, because they wanted to find out more about this. And it was with a solution that we helped develop and deliver and support with the team at Wikipedia. And one challenge that they had is they have an overabundance of English contributors. So when you look at the English metrics, for example, on an average month, give or take, they have around 300,000 contributors every single month. They have roughly 7 million articles generated every single month in English. But this doesn't really translate over when you start looking at other languages. For example, one example of this is Hausa, a language in Africa. And when you look at this language, they have 200 and that's it, monthly contributors. And they have roughly 50,000 articles being generated. So these 200 people are like going above and beyond trying to translate everything. But yet Hausa has 88 million speakers. So all of these people are basically denied access to a lot of this educational material and valuable material unless they learn English in a country where it's not the main language, just to educate themselves. So it's not really a realistic opportunity or approach for a platform like Wikipedia when they pride themselves on being the encyclopedia of the internet. And so they were trying to develop a solution for this, because when you look at Wikipedia as a whole, they have roughly support for 3,000 plus languages. So for them, they can't even use a tool like AI because AI itself doesn't support over 3,000 languages. And so when you look at AI, it's not the end all be all like the internet and the world wants you to believe it is. There's a lot of really great use case. And one example that I give is when it comes to agentic AI or a utilization of AI for higher level problems, there's only so much that it can do, especially at this stage. Of course, the increase in value is going to continue to expand and grow and make a lot of our lives simplistic in a lot of ways. It's going to make your mother's life easier. I'm sure she's going to find a great way to use agentic AI as well. So take notes for her. But there's tons of ways where you can get that exposure. And so when you look at solutions like Wikipedia, they can't do it. So they have to come up with solutions that can have a potential opening for AI in the future, but they have to use solutions like what we developed, which was called wiki functions, where you would create functions, and this is completely open source. So if anyone wants to contribute, you absolutely can. But you can go to wikifunctions.com and create a function, and they can be utilized. So for example, there's only 3 countries in the world that utilize cups as a form of measurement, right? America, Liberia, and Myanmar. Outside of that, the rest of the world uses milliliters. So if you were to take a language in English that uses cups as measurement and even just translate that over word for word, when it gets to that section, the average person in those other countries wouldn't have any clue how you're utilizing it. And so when we start looking at how the potential areas where this could be implicated, you start looking at what areas would agentic AI kind of jump into here, right? So some use case could potentially be developing a solution theoretically for the languages it does support, like Korean or German or Spanish. And that could start streamlining a lot of that. Then, of course, you have to start, as the AI continues to improve, you could start kind of creating pathways in for those other supportive languages. Now, Jerry gave a definition of what an agentic AI is, which is not inaccurate. I think if you start asking AI developers what their definition is, it may change because this is just so new right now. The definition that I like to go by is when you have an LLM or a prompt and you give it like a set of instructions to follow, it does that thing in that way, and that's pretty much it. When I think of agentic AI, it doesn't have a set number of repetition. It doesn't have a fixed solution for how many times it runs. It's a very circular motion. So it may run once, it may run thrice, it may run 15 times in order to get the exact output that you're looking for and desiring and the solution that you need. So it needs to be able to reason on its own to say, okay, this is a quantifiable amount, and this justifies the search that we just did or the solution that we looked for. Now, it could be done in form of, one prime example, let's say you wanted to find the best coffee maker. If you were to ask, let's say ChatGPT, for example, something I'm sure we're all familiar with, if you were to ask ChatGPT, hey, what do you think is the best coffee maker? It can probably develop a answer for you. Whether it's accurate or not, we don't really know, but it'll develop something. Maybe it's a known coffee brand or something along those lines. If you were to add further steps saying, hey, based on reviews and search, can you find the best coffee maker for me? It will now scour the web because now it has access to search. It will go through different websites, searching for those reviews. It'll kind of scrape and channel all that data to then form that answer. Maybe it takes one repetition of one site, maybe multiple. It may take 30 seconds for that search to happen, or it may take 7 minutes. It varies depending on the breadth that you give it. This is where agentic AI value starts kicking in that respect. Are you following the example so far? Yes, cool, perfect. So I've kind of brought in a demo. This is on GitHub as well, so anybody that wants to kind of copy it, you can, but I'm gonna show you something that you can do on your own, so you won't have to copy it, but kind of going through all that. All right, so yeah, let me go through this first before I bring that. So what does agentic AI look like? So there's a couple use cases before I get into the demo. Over the last year, I've met a lot of founders of startups, of companies, pretty much all over the United States. And I want to kind of mention a couple to you to give you ideas of where this use case can really start going. One example of which is a founder that I met in Nashville, Tennessee. And in Nashville, he has actually created a agentic AI solution for debt collecting. And so what he did was he created a tool that essentially takes in the calls, or actually makes the calls, whichever way it goes. And the person on the other side doesn't know that they're talking to an agentic AI voice. It's very human-like. And for the most part, when it comes to debt collecting, majority of the responses follow a very similar pattern and rhythm. So it's very easy to kind of predict what flow that conversation is going to go into. This is where agentic AI really thrives. When you start getting into automating average customer care, for example, let's say Amazon customer care, agentic AI will pretty much crash and burn in that scenario because there's too many unexpected pathways for that conversation to go. There's too many SKUs, too many items that you can call about, too many potential issues. Your package went missing. Did you check your neighbor? Well, I'm out of town. That would throw it completely off. They're like, where did that come from? So because of that, that's not a great use case. Debt collecting, it's following a very similar pattern. So you can kind of figure out the flow there. And so because of that, it's a very great use case to automate with agentic AI. And because of that, call centers traditionally are known as transitionary jobs, meaning compared to the average employment lifespan of any worker, they have the shortest lifespan of an employee sticking around. So on average, the average debt collecting call center hires 3x the number of employees for those facilities. So their overhead and employment costs alone are significantly high. But in order to operate at a normal level, they have to have those flows, right? Now, if you're able to bring in agentic AI, you could still keep an overhead that's slightly high, but have an overall reduction in workforce for the overhiring. So in this case of this call center in Nashville, Tennessee, they were able to reduce 3.5x employee count to 2. So they're still double what their call center capacity should theoretically be as far as employees go. So they're still having more, but they were able to reduce it by over 1/3 of the chairs. And one thing that they saw over the trial of 3 months was not only was the debt collecting AI tool good at what it did, its average collection rate was higher than the average human being making those phone calls. And it's because it can kind of keep iterating over and over and over. It doesn't have to stop. And whereas a human would have to stop and maintain that one call, the tool can kind of just fill up all the phone lines at one time. And so very, very successful rates, unfortunately. The second founder I met was in Provo, Utah. Only time I've ever been to Utah. I don't know if I'll be back again, but if I am, it'll probably be in that area. I met the two founders, and they actually created a agentic AI tool for pharmacies. And the average flow of a pharmacy, again, very predictable. Where's my prescription? I filed my prescription, it's not there yet, et cetera, et cetera. Easy flow. Same thing, but theirs, in my opinion, it's slightly more noticeable that you're talking to an AI voice than a person, but people are kind of used to that already to where it works out well. And they were able to actually get, as a client, I won't say the name, but it's a very well-known brand that I'm pretty confident 99.9% of us in this room have either shopped at or been familiar with. There's probably one within a mile radius of this facility. So these are like several situations where agentic AI really thrives as far as like money-making opportunities. Agents have been the first time that I've ever seen where people can truly make millions in a very short period of time. I've seen businesses at a scale that I've never seen before thrive because of this. And so it's become very interesting to me. So kind of going into this use case, my goal with this is to kind of show you ways, whether you're more experienced or not, on how you can utilize this. And so there are several tools out there, plenty of tools, plenty of ways. You can code your own, et cetera, et cetera. But there's this tool. So if you're new to this or even experienced, I think you're going to find an appreciation with this tool. It's called On Demand. I'm not sponsored by them in any way. They don't pay me nothing, but if they want to cut a check, I'm more than happy to have that conversation. And one thing with On Demand is they have a ton of bots or agents. And one thing that you can do is you can chain multiple agents. It's called multi-agent workflow. And this is where like interesting things start to really, really occur. And so here, I'm kind of in the playground. I'm already signed in, very easy to sign up. And on top of that, when you sign up, you get like $50 of like free credits. And if you run out of that, maybe you have a second email address. I didn't say that, but you know, I may or may not have experience with that. But so right now I'm in this playground, right? Playground, you can experiment, you can try things, see how it works. And there's a whole agent marketplace, right? Now you can kind of find agents for kind of all kinds of things. Can you all see that? Do I need to zoom in? Huh? All right. All right. So there's all kinds of things here. There's like a LinkedIn search agent, a video agent, startup news and reviews agent, Spotify agent, all kinds of agents for things, right? Now, I kind of already have a little bit of experience and I already have a couple agents in my thing. And so I will go to Playground and I'll go to active agents and I'll add. So I'm adding 2 agents for this task. I'm going to do a task with you where the idea here, it's going to be slightly reminiscent of a something you could do in production or actual business or something along those lines to kind of give you an idea where this can go. So I'm going to add in the Amazon shopping agent and the email agent. Now, I've gone through all the documentation for these things. I've kind of like researched it. So I'm kind of saving you some time here in that regard. But let's say I wanted to go ahead and use the Amazon agent and things like that. So there's several things that we could do here. So let's just do one basic example to kind of see how this works. Let me kind of set this up here before I go on to like the full-on code demo to show you things. All right. Bring this a little close. All right. Okay, and so let's kind of do something here. So here I can enter my prompt into what it is that I'm looking for. So let's say, give me a list of microphones, since I'm talking into one, from Amazon. So I'll just put that in just for now. Very basic prompt. We're not in the agentic side of things yet, but right now it doesn't know how many queries I want on this list. Is it 1? Is it 10? Is it 30? So it's gonna give me something. And you can see here, it's kind of populating this list as well right now as we speak. And it has the links with it. So if I were to click on this gaming microphone, for example, boom, takes me straight there. Now, what if I wanted to take this a step further, right? What if I said, and this is kind of where I'm thinking of use cases, right? Like, what if I had a very popular email list or a newsletter, right? Kind of like even what they were mentioning earlier, they have a newsletter. What if I had a newsletter and I had all this stock of microphones. And I kind of wanted to have maybe my affiliate code attached to it where I could be earning some affiliate money. I could literally take these links and have the agent add my affiliate code or something along those lines, and then I could pull all the information. But then I started taking this a step further. What if I was a microphone manufacturer? And instead of using an Amazon shopping list, what if I had my own agent scouring through my inventory list and searching through which stock has not been moving as frequently as the others? What if I made a discount on certain mics only to my email list followers that I could send out to them? Instead of me having to manually go pull those results, instead of me having to manually go through, look through all this time-consuming data to find out what's moving at a certain speed and not, I can just have it scour the information for me, find out which ones aren't moving, automatically add the code, put it inside of a table, and then we could email it, right? That right there is where I'm starting to think how this all changed together. And so this is where this app kind of comes in together. Now, I'll show you one cool thing here. If you're on this website and you're using it for the first time, maybe you're very technically savvy, or maybe you are somewhat newer to tech. Maybe like you're just trying to get into the beginning stages or get your feet wet with AI. This is a great way to do it. And so you can get the code. It'll ask you what language you want it in. So let's say JavaScript, or a matter of fact, instead of JavaScript, let's say React.js. And that's not how you spell that. React.js, get the code, and now it's generating the code with this agent, with the plugin for it, so that way it can automatically utilize this in a local environment. So if I wanted to pull this locally onto my machine and utilize it, this is how it would. And now you can see, here's the code here. All right. And so you can see here, it's asking for an external user ID, which I'll explain in a second. It's asking for an API key. It's asking for the query. It's asking, for example, here, put your query here, has your plugins and things like that. Have another section for your API key. Now, just as a show, just humor me for a second. I'm going to ask a question, and if you feel this answer is in the positive, I want you to stomp your feet in this pattern. Bop, bop, bop. Okay? Can we just try this? Are you at the meetup tonight? There we go. All right. So I'm going to ask you 3 questions. Number 1, how many of y'all have ever been in a situation where you're coding and you're losing your mind? You feel like flipping the table. All right. How many of y'all have ever been in a situation where you have a code review and you're nervous and it doesn't go through and you don't know why? How many of y'all have committed your API keys? Don't commit your API keys, man. What are you doing? Oh, don't commit your API keys. I hate that. I hate that. You do it once and you'll never forget, especially if they catch it. So here, for example, now we see an area where it says, replace the external user ID and replace the API keys. I'll come back to this in a second. So here in on demand, you see there's a section for API key management. And so if you click that, everybody was looking like I was going to expose my API key, huh? No. You know what's worse than committing your API key? Showing it on a live stream where people can run up my credit card bill right now. So you would click there, and then there's a section in your settings where you would click to get your external user ID. Now, let me go ahead and show this application that I built. Let me zoom into this. Smart Chat Assistant. So essentially, I wanted to take that idea of what if we get these results, place it into a table, and email it to somebody. And so with this, I'm using a temporary mail. So this is just a burner mail email address that you can just use. It's completely free. And we can copy this here, right? And I'll go to this application, enter the email address, and this is what it is. And I'm going to create a session. If all your code is accurate and your API key is entered incorrectly, I'm now seeing the active session is giving me the token number to represent that session. Now I will press get recommendations. Now the agents are working. We don't know how many that they're going to generate, how many they're going to put in the table with the links and all the good stuff, but the query that I entered represented that essentially, right? And it's going to take a little while because it's working in real time and this Wi-Fi is Wi-Fiing. And we will know once it's done because it's going to show us the data at the bottom for the query, not just the query, but the actual search results from the Amazon bot that it utilized or agent that it utilized. And here we go. So chat query submitted accurately. Here is the product URLs. Here are the ones that it showed. Here are the find agent metrics. Now, that's all good, but oh, we see we got an email in this burner email address. And so when I click on it, it generates, and here it is. Hello, please find the selection of microphones right here. It generated 3 microphones for me. It gave me the links for it, and if I click on it, it'll take me directly to Amazon, which is really cool, right? Like I can utilize this for a lot of things. And this is 3 agents all working together seamlessly to kind of find me those microphones, format that table for me, place all the information in there, including the links, which is a big deal, and then send it to me automatically. Now, what if I had like a spreadsheet of emails that I wanted to send it to? You could feed that spreadsheet in there. You could even use an extra agent if you wanted to do it one at a time. I don't know why you would, but you theoretically could do that, and that's how it would work there. And so from here, let me kind of pull up VS Code, and I will show how this is working. And so essentially, that's obviously page TSX. I just did all of this in one go. I use TypeScript, so if you are allergic to TypeScript, I apologize somewhat. Let me hide this. If it will go down. There we go. So again, because I won't expose my API key and all those other good things, I'm using environment variables to kind of pull all that in there, right? So if you're a junior developer or newer and you don't know how not to commit your API key or show it, that is exactly how you do that. So take a picture if you need to, screenshot it on the live stream if you need to. I see the comments, dang, this is extremely useful. I didn't know that. Very thank you, thank you, thank you. So here we have our session ID, which we want to capture obviously to kind of showcase, number one, if something goes wrong, we want to be able to look at the error logs theoretically of what could be going wrong with that. Let me hide this here to give me some more real estate. And then here, we're creating a chat session, right? Oh, I'm on the scroll. Uh-oh. What just happened? Uh-oh. See, there we go, there we go, there we go. Okay. Maybe, all right, we're working. I got nervous for a second. Wait, let me stop this server maybe. See, I was getting too cocky and the universe is like, I'm gonna show you. All right, let me stop the server. All right, we should be good now. All right. Let me close the terminal. Okay, are we working now? Yeah, there we go. Okay, cool. So we have our state variables to kind of show error state, session IDs, etc. And as we kind of go down, I wanted to console log if there were any environment variables kind of showing itself. So we were good there. So I have a try here, right? And so that try is using the API on demand for sessions. And I'm using my API key as well as the external user ID that we saw in that generated code as well. And so inside this, we're looking for any response data. For example, if like the session ID is not found, we obviously want to have some debugging status where we can look through that. But luckily for us, we had no errors in that regard. And so here, we're kind of having our query, like, give me a list of microphones ranging from $100 to $799, and take that list and create, whoops, it went way too far there. Trying to do this backwards. So take that list and create a table with the information that I can place in an email. That table will have the product name, the price, and the product URL. The email will end with, from your friendly neighborhood microphone finding AI agent. I want to send that email to, and whatever email it is that we enter in that input field. Based on the information, we're able to kind of generate what it is. Now, these plugin IDs are what is identifying the agents that we're trying to utilize from that on-demand platform. Now, to be completely honest, you don't have to use the platform. But there are tons of marketplaces out there where you can get existing agents, or you can start making proprietary ones on your own. It's just the code. But if you wanted to chain several together, that is where it starts getting a little bit more complicated within that multi-agent flow to start piecing it all together. But if this is kind of like a simplistic way, if you wanted to get introduced to it and start digging into it, and then you could even have, theoretically, if I wanted to, my own agent working with the flow from on demand, where it would, like, for example, if I wanted to use their email bot, I could have something that's scraping something locally, tied into their email bot and send it. I could create my own email agent in that regard, and things like that. And then, of course, you have your API keys and things like that. And then, of course, a little bit of styling, because I don't like looking at anything that's not somewhat aesthetically pleasing. And so I left comments to kind of make sure that if you're a junior dev that's looking at the demo, you can kind of figure out and debug it on your own, and kind of jump in all that other ways. Outside of that, that is it in a nutshell. So hopefully you found some value in that. If you're newer to the AI agent workflow, this is a really great way to kind of get introduced to that. And ooh, I forgot to pull up one thing. Whoops. I think I just closed it too. Hold on one second. One extra thing for everybody here. I did close it. Whoops. All right. And now, for the chat that's been asking online, and for the people in here that are interested, you can sign up for the Developer's Guide to AI. Jacob, Jerry, and myself are involved with this project. And like I said earlier, if anyone has feedback, contributes in a meaningful way, we are going to have a page dedicated to all the contributors. So that way, when this hits bookstores and bookshelves, you'll also be a part of this. And so also by signing up, you'll get a portion of the book for free to kind of vet and obviously give feedback on, because obviously what else could you potentially give feedback on? So please, if you're online, take a screenshot of that as well. And if you are in person, I see all the phones out. So that's a good sign. I think we did something right. And so good kudos to the team. And yeah, so contribute meaningfully in that way if you can. And we would love to have you be a part of that. But essentially, we're looking for, according to the conversations we're having, June timeline. And so I'm going to leave that up just for a few seconds, as I see people are still trying to grab pictures of the QR code. So I'd go for it in that regard. And Dennis with the long drum with this guy. All right. And so I kind of said this at the beginning of the meetup. We end every single meetup with the same thing. We would love for you to be a part of it. And we ask everybody, as long as you feel comfortable, please come to the front. We take a big group photo together. We put it on like LinkedIn or whatever else. And it's not like to sell the meetup or anything, but just a way for us to be together. And for those online, you think we can get them on there? Yeah. And for those online, if you feel comfortable as well, I know there's quite a few of you online, you could turn your cameras on, and we will share the cameras on the screen as well, so that way you can be a part of the picture as well. Thank you.